Mueller's team, they thought there actually was enough evidence there to pursue, and what Mr. Nunberg and others were talking about. They also carefully, as a legal matter, decided that it appeared beyond their jurisdiction. So they handed it to New York investigators, who ultimately secured Cohen's cooperation. And that's why we have these public facts from that probe, which could be very relevant when Trump leaves office. This was, of course, overseen by the Trump DOJ, finding Cohen arranged for payments to women who claimed to have had an affair with individual one. And they found that Cohen's intent was to influence the election. Now, that is bad because while there can be a defense that such payments were, say, separate from an election crime, committed for some other reason, Cohen, the one who arranged them, already admitted it under oath. And the evidence shows Trump was in on it. Cohen says he did all of it at the direction of individual one. And Trump confirmed some of that by paying for it with those reimbursements, which came through, some of them while he was president, with his company involved in a suspicious series of payments, $35,000 a pop over the course of a year. This is a lot of hard evidence. Now, as far as the courts are concerned, it's a felony committed with and for the benefit of one person, individual one. And everyone knows who that is.
Yet last fall, I pled guilty in federal court to felonies for the benefit of, at the direction of, and in coordination with individual number one. And for the record, individual number one is President Donald J. Trump.
Cohen testifying he went to jail for executing Trump's plan.
The President of the United States thus wrote a personal check for the payment of hush money as part of a criminal scheme to violate campaign finance laws. And I am going to jail in part because of my decision to help Mr. Trump hide that payment from the American people before they voted a few days later.
You hear that phrase, hide that payment, and hide the underlying conduct, and hide it for a long time. Now, by today's lights, it may all sound familiar. But remember, investigators, if they pursue a case like this, could bear down on how Trump continued to cover up, continued to lie about this. Here he was on Air Force One in 2018.
Mr. President, did you know about the $130,000 payment to Stormy Daniels? Then why did Michael Cohen make it if there was no truth or allegation?
Well, you have to ask Michael Cohen. Michael's my attorney, and you'll have to ask Michael.
Do you know where he got the money to make that payment?
No, I don't know.
False. Donald Trump knew because Cohen arranged a cash advance. We have the evidence. And Trump paid for it partly through the Trump Organization. You see it there. You see his signature. This is what they call receipts. Even Rudy Giuliani came out to admit it later that year.
Something to do with paying some Stormy Daniels woman $130,000, I mean, which is going to turn out to be perfectly legal. And the president repaid it.
Oh, I didn't know he did.
Yeah.
There's no campaign finance law.
Zero.
Up a little bit. Now, does all this make Donald Trump a culpable conspirator? That's a tough question. Any charges or trial of Trump would still be pitting that string of reactions you just saw there, from a lying denial by Trump to Rudy Giuliani's he did it, but it's legal. It would pit all of that against the evidence, which includes the financials, the receipts, the legal rules, to witnesses like Cohen and Daniels.
Suddenly people are reaching out to me again, offering me money, large amounts of money. And then I get the call, I think I have the best deal for you.
From your lawyer?
Yeah.
It's a $130,000 in-kind contribution by Cohen to the Trump campaign. And if he does this on behalf of his client, the candidate, that is a coordinated, illegal, in-kind contribution by Cohen for the purpose of influencing the election.
Okay, that's a big deal. That last voice you heard there is a Republican election law expert laying out Trump's potential legal exposure, because the law matters and the evidence matters. Now, reporting on this case, you'll hear from many different people with direct knowledge or who are involved in some part of this. And they come back to the fact that if this was a crime, and Cohen was convicted of the crime, and Cohen was taking orders to commit this crime, then do we all just move on? Or do we deal with the fact that this crime committed in public, convicted in public, that someone went to jail for, actually raises a question about whether the ultimate guilt goes higher?
Donald Trump was complicit in this conduct. He should face significant liability for the conduct.
The weight of evidence will continue to get greater, but it's so overwhelming now.
Do you think it's nefarious?
Of course it's nefarious.
The campaign finance violation, which was Donald Trump directing, this is the finding of the prosecutors, directing his lawyer to pay hush money to corrupt an American election.
Was the National Enquirer acting as the arm of Donald Trump and Michael Cohen? And if so, is there something wrong with that?
We strongly suspect they were. That's why we brought them.
Those parties said they had lots of proof. Now, let's be clear. Some fared better than others. Mr. Avenatti, who you just saw there, he initially forced a lot of this into the public square, but was ultimately indicted on other unrelated crimes for which he awaits trial. And in fairness, there are other legal reasons that this kind of case against Donald Trump might not hold up if pursued. Take the relatively unsympathetic example of former Senator John Edwards, indicted on a similar fact pattern, charged on a similar theory, but he avoided conviction, making the argument that whatever bad things he did, the goal was not violating the campaign finance laws. He was acquitted. Now, the rule of law requires putting one's views of Donald Trump as a person or as the leader of the ideology of Trumpism. If you want to do this fairly, you actually have to put that aside. And you have to seriously reckon with whether there is a crime so serious that an ex-president ought to be put on trial.
Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.